That evening, I returned home a little later than expected. There was a meeting in which I had to take part. I didn't really want to be there. The two people I mediated with were both, frankly, not very nice. Both are interested in causing as much pain as possible to the other person. They were not interested in resolving the situation. They were interested in the damage. I could understand why. The whole situation was a disaster from a business standpoint, but still, my job was to find a middle ground so that both parties could walk away feeling like they got what they wanted. In situations where one or both parties are more interested in hurting the other party than resolving the situation, or worse, where the act of resolving was actually the harmful part, this is virtually impossible. No one comes out of such a situation satisfied, I can tell you. More than once I have had to admit defeat and simply tell both parties that at this stage they will have to involve lawyers, because the only way to resolve the situation is to hurt the other. But at least in situations where both sides are trying to hurt each other out of blind rage and resentment, there is a chance that one side or the other will come to their senses. And this is where I come in. I think it's worth introducing myself. I'm Mike Absalom. I am a mediator, a specialist in resolving disputes and conflict situations, and a good mediator, so to speak, in a company that is hired by law firms as arbitrators. Babut, most of the time our work is woven into contracts. If a contract breaks down, instead of running to lawyers, two parties, or three, sometimes even four, come to us. We sit down, try to figure out the situation, what everyone wants, and try to come to an agreement. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. What we do is not legally binding. We enter into an agreement in the spirit, not the letter of the law. Sometimes what we do takes the form of a contract, but mostly it is a way of getting people to come together and find solutions to their problems. Less about the letter of the law and more about the spirit, sort of. So, yeah, that's what I do. I have always been doing this in one form or another, and I have a special style of work. I come from a large family, 6 children, 5 boys, and a girl. I was second in command and always seemed to mediate disagreements. Mom was a single mother. Our dad died 2 days after Benji, our youngest, was born. He was killed by a drunk driver while he was crossing the road after buying flowers for my mother. She was never able to come to terms with it, but she plunged headlong into caring for us. I did the best I could, but the reality is that even with 2 parents providing shelter, clothing, food, and attention equally for all 6 would be difficult, let alone for a single parent. She ran her own real estate business, and we were what our generation called the latchkey kids. We'd come home, cook, watch TV, get annoyed with each other, and somehow I always ended up being the reconciler. Dispute resolution is an interesting career path. I didn't plan for it to become my career choice. It just happened that way. I originally worked in a factory on the shop floor making metal parts for all sorts of things. Golf carts, ballpoint pens, whatever. As long as it had little pieces of metal in it, we made those parts. In short, I was the voice of reason on a number of issues and sorted things out when necessary. I have no idea why they chose me. Perhaps I was the most sensible one. Anyway, I was working in a metal shop. This was in college while taking a creative writing course. Yeah, I have no idea what I was thinking either, and there was a dispute between the management and the workers. Some of us were in a union, some were not. Personally, I wasn't, but somehow I still ended up representing the workers. There was a union representative, and he showed up sometimes, but half the time when management wanted to talk to the workers, he was nowhere to be found. Part of me still believes that the management, did this on purpose. Anyway, I ended up talking a lot, and although I think management was armed to the teeth, we managed to come up with something. 4 months later, everything happened again. The same thing, some kind of requirement that we should not have vacations in August because a large order had arrived or something like that. In general, this time they attracted an arbitration company, which in essence did the same thing as I did, only without bias, as the management put it. It didn't really matter. In the end, the arbitration company talked to me and the union representative anyway, and then simply referred the case to management. All they really did was act as an intermediary. We solved a problem that avoided trouble, as management put it, and everyone benefited from it. Personally, I received it. I received a job offer from an arbitration company. So I changed my college major to business studies with a minor in psychology and went to work for them. It was certainly easier on my hands, for sure. 2 years later, I graduated from college and have been working as a mediator ever since. And believe me, I have been a mediator in the strangest cases. Movie companies and actors' agents, car companies and their employees, lawyers who are partners, even a group of surfing competitors and the company that organized them. I've even done more than a few marriages. Didn't try to be a marriage counselor. Figured these guys knew what they were doing, but just came when all else failed, and we had to figure it out. But I have a special technique, one that works for me and not for anyone else. People react when they see vulnerability and when they see honesty. So when I meditate, I try to show people my vulnerability and honesty. I sit and talk to both sides separately, trying to understand who these people are, what they think is important, how they feel about the situation, what they want from it, what they think about the other side. In general, trying to understand both sides. I must say that I have been reprimanded more than once by senior partners for using this terminology, but this is how I am beginning to view clients, and it is working for me. I just need to not use those words. After that, I can usually find a way to get each side to think about what the other side thinks is important. For them, this may not be the case, or maybe this is the reason for the conflict. Either way, bringing them in touch with the other person's needs is of paramount importance. Orson Scott Card, a famous science fiction author and general religious fanatic, once wrote a story about a girl who could see the connections between people. She saw them as lines of force. They created a web between everyone, and she could see how to cut those lines with a few well-chosen words. As an aside, how is it that some people can be monstrously smart and write incredible stories, interconnected with interesting people and great dialogue, and yet have this incredible blind spot in their lives where they believe in invisible people living above clouds? I just do not understand. When I read his story, I noticed the similarities between what I do and what this fictional character does. I can't see what connects people, but if I'm pushed enough, I can usually figure it out, and my job is to either untangle existing connections or create new ones that undo old ones. At least that's how I see it. In fact, these are all just touching things, and I can't convey it, and this is definitely not a skill that I practice at home, with my wife. Oh yes, wife. We haven't even mentioned it yet. I know this is a little frivolous for a story in the Loving Wives section, but I needed you to have an idea of what I do and how I do it, because it will matter later. Do I need to describe myself? Necessary? Indeed. When I read a story, the last thing I care about is what the guy looks like. Okay. My height is about 80 meters exactly. My weight is 89 kilograms. At least that's what it was a week ago. I drink vodka, love wine, ride my bike, and yes, my hair is starting to thin and is definitely graying on the sides. Fuck aging. It's enough? Do I need to continue about skin color? Or that I'm clean-shaven? Or any of that crap? Does anyone care? Is it true? Yes, I have manhood in my pants. Not huge and not small. Normal. God. So, wife, yes, I have to talk about her. Love of my life. I know everyone says that, right? But it's true. It's like one of those things when you talk about children. It's great to have them. For those who have never had them, it's just words. I think this whole story about announcing that you are having children is very interesting and not at all funny. You say, "We're pregnant," and even that makes me smile. We? I would just impregnate her and have a great time, and from that point on, everything is 100% hers. She will develop it within herself, endure discomfort, she will have to give up alcohol, urinate a lot, and finally endure the humiliation associated with childbirth, not to mention the body problems that may arise after, from stretch marks to postpartum depression. And yet, it gives out this. Yes, you did a lot, asshole. And here's what all your friends tell you. Go and get drunk. You won't be able to do that when the baby is born. Go to the cinema. You won't be able to do that when the baby is born. Go and eat. You won't be able to when the baby is born. The baby will be born. go and sleep. You won't be able to when the baby is born. And my personal favorite, go have sex. You won't be able to once the baby is born. And then at the end, they throw out one phrase. But this is the best thing that has ever happened? Yes, it looks like it. Sounds great. I mean, so many people say this, so they must be right, but damn. You get all sorts of very explicit and specific reasons why it's going to suck, and then at the end you're told, but it's great. The best thing ever, and I can't help but notice that there's nothing specific about it. But given how I feel about Christy, I can't quite believe it. By the way, that's her name. She was Christy Fenton, and now she's Christy Absalom, or at least she will be for the next couple of months. In any case, that's how I felt about Christy and how she felt about me. When it came to children, I realized that my little joke about the party was both true and coming from a place of darkness. For us, the prospect of having children is impossible. During her first period, Christy discovered she had a lot of pain and female problems, as she put it. Her parents took her to the hospital and discovered that her tubes were not formed correctly. Surgery was required, they were tied, and the egg parts of the tubes were removed, because if this had not been done, then at best, monthly periods would have been painful, and at worst, life-threatening. Apparently, she was told it was a cancer just waiting to appear. So, they were removed, and with them, all chances for Christy to have children. By the time we were together, she had already gone through it, or as much as it was possible for a woman to go through. I understand that a woman does not consider herself a woman if she cannot perform one of the most basic functions of a woman. I don't think I believe it, but with Christy, I knew it was a dark place that none of us wanted to look too deeply into. I agree with that. I love children and assumed they would be somewhere in my future. But when the choice came between Christy and my life and children, it was an obvious decision. We talked about this a lot, and a few years ago, Christy even said that we should get donor eggs, combine them with my seed, and create a surrogate pregnancy. We looked into this possibility, I got tested, it turned out that my swimmers were fine, and even began to study surrogate mothers and the procedure itself. But I was never aimed at this, something was wrong here. Christy was very enthusiastic, but when it came time to do it, I just couldn't do it. I don't know why, but there's something wrong with this. It wasn't until Christy fainted when I said no that I realized what was going on. Christy carries within herself a groundless sense of guilt for not being able to have children, and this whole surrogacy thing is both an attempt to make me happy and what she considers her God's punishment. I have no idea where it all came from, but it was there, and it took some therapy to put it all back together and begin repairs. But you do what you have to do. I knew something was wrong, and it seemed like my subconscious knew more than my conscious mind. Although it was right then, in this case it failed me greatly. So, no children. We had never adopted children. That also felt wrong, although I have no idea why. And we decided that if we had to be childless, we should accept it. We traveled, saw the world, ran from bulls in Spain, ate breakfast at the base of the pyramids, played hide-and-seek in the ruins of Pompeii, dove in Pearl Harbor, spent weeks drinking ourselves into oblivion, wine tasting in Napa Valley, and jumped off the Bangui Bridge. In Sydney Harbor, we lived a full life. Friends with experience moved away when they had children. They had a different life than us, and we all knew it. There was a lot of, we should meet, and at first, we tried. But no one was ever free. No one could find babysitters, and even when they could, they had to be home by 11, and couldn't even get much work done, because they had to be sober to be responsible for their children when they got home. As they walked out of our downtown apartment in Bellevue, a suburb of Seattle, we looked at each other, giggled, and said, "It's a good thing we don't have kids." It was all a bit pathetic, and we were clearly covering our holes, but we were also drunk, and then had slow, lazy sex on the balcony. We were 3 floors up, so we weren't worried about being seen, so that had its advantages. Everything was fine with us. I have my own job, which is sometimes stressful, and she has hers. She was a curator at the Seattle Technology Museum. It's funny, she was into all the little gadgets like iPhones, iPads, Fitbits, and all the other things that are traditionally considered masculine, and I liked classical music, sculpture, and opera. We often joked that we had parts of our brains swapped, like that episode of Star Trek. We have been married for almost 12 years. We met at a field hockey match. I had just moved to Seattle from college in Missouri, and before that, from the suburbs of Chicago, where I was raised. I didn't have many friends, and someone from work invited me. And, frankly speaking, I had nothing to do that Saturday. Two cooperative teams going at each other, the level of frenzy was simply amazing. As far as I could tell, this was a great opportunity for the women of both teams to beat the living crap out of the men on the field and get applauded for it. Sometimes it was difficult to understand which of them were women and which were men. The women were so muscular and plump. I was just watching one man get hit in the shin with a club so hard that his shin guard was split, and there was blood everywhere, when I suddenly realized that someone was standing next to me, holding a glass of something and looking at what was unfolding in front of her. "Do you think he'll ever want to be a member of the team again?" she asked, looking at me. I personally wouldn't want to. Limping home is not the best way to complete anything, I said, somewhat unconvincingly. She smiled at me, looked back at the man who was being led off the field by his two teammates and said, "Oh, I can think of a way that getting into that situation could be fun. Although not like that. It was nice talking to you." She nodded and left. It was amazing for me. Christy is about 6 feet tall, brown-haired, but with a hint of blonde, a somewhat round face, beautiful eyes, emphasized by dark makeup and long eyelashes, also real as I later found out, a proportional upturned nose, stunning cheekbones, and a round mouth with a bow, which, if you concentrate on him, you just want to kiss him. Her eyes are incredibly blue and she blinks too much. She's well proportioned. Nothing too big, nothing too small. A defined butt that's shaped but not huge or jiggly. Slightly narrow in the hips, but overall just a stunning set. I watched her leave and almost kicked myself for my unconvincing answers, shaking my head sadly. Later that day, I had another opportunity when I visited a temporary bar set up next to the pitch. They only sold crap wine, beer, and pre-made cocktails that tasted, well, pre-made. I bought a glass of the least offensive wine. Yes, I'm a snob, and I know about wine tasting. My mom's sister, my Aunt Nancy, worked part-time reviewing wines, and I learned a lot from her about taste, bouquet, and all that nonsense that comes with tasting. I also learned that 95% of this is complete nonsense, designed to impress others who have no idea about it. After all, wine is like art. This one suits you, and that one doesn't. There's nothing in the world that makes a wine worth $100, let alone $1,000, other than your willingness to pay for it. I bought the only thing that didn't make me wince and turned to leave, only to find this delightful creature who had been talking to me earlier standing in line behind me, fiddling with some small black box that had what looked like something attached to it. Handle. She was so focused on this that she didn't notice that I was standing nearby, patiently waiting for her to notice me and move out of the way. Finally, I coughed. She looked at me with some irritation, realized the situation, and said, "Oh, sorry, I just bought it, and I can't stop playing with it." She picked up a box that had what looked like a gray LCD screen on it. "This is Visor, one of the new PDAs," she said, as if that explained everything. I looked at her silently and she said, "Doesn't matter, sorry, let me get out of your way." She walked away, I walked around her, and then just stopped. She took her drink, turned around, and now I was standing in her way. She looked at me silently, a smile playing on her lips. "We need to stop bumping into each other like this," she said with mocking seriousness. I smiled back. "So, what is Visor? Let's get out of line and let's go talk." And we talked. A whole hour. I learned that Visor is one of those new digital personal assistants that Palm pioneered. I learned that she is obsessed with gadgets and that she is a qualified librarian and historian. I found out that today she came solely because her friend was playing and she couldn't figure out how to refuse her without hurting her feelings. I found out that she is free next Friday and really wants to see the latest Harry Potter movie, but hates going anywhere alone. The hint was thick, and by God I understood it. And that was the beginning. We were in bed together at the 4-week mark and married about 10 months later. I can go on and on about the chaotic wedding. All my relatives came, and it was like a clam-pet reunion. Her relatives were there too, much higher class than us, looking at us suspiciously through their bifocals, and then cheered when someone on my side noticed them and pulled them into action. I could go on and on about her family. One sister, a brother in the army, doing God knows what, God knows where, and God knows with whom, father and mother, long divorced, and now friends. I only met her brother a few times because he was often out of the country, but he seemed like a pretty decent guy. Worried about his sister, but not blind to who she was. We drank a beer or 10, these army guys know how to drink, and had some, well, I would call them interesting conversations. I learned a lot more about her first boyfriends than I really wanted to know. I could go on and on about our years together, growing up together, having fun, exploring life, and generally acting like teenagers when we thought we could get away with it. We were partners in every sense of the word. Together, we joined several groups. I read poetry, and she came and tried too. She drew, and I, to be honest, didn't even try. I could read and write, but that was where my abilities ended. I didn't even know which end of the brush to use. I was trying to draw abstractions, and she would come and look and make comments like, "I see you're still 7 years old." And then she laughed hysterically. Oh, she was driving herself crazy, my wife. We both had modern mountain bikes and used them extensively. The Seattle area is full of bike paths, and we made the most of them. This was our main physical activity, and we liked it. We even went on weekend bike rides to Portland and Vancouver. I don't want to say that this is like hippie nirvana. We quarreled. We had disagreements. God, this woman has character. When she's angry, she could turn any room into Siberia. She has a vicious sense of sarcasm that can cut right to the core. And when she gets really angry, she does it right in front of other people. And the only option for me was to either back down and look like a weakling or get into a catfight in front of her. From our friends. I tried both approaches, but neither of them worked. Retreating often speeded up the solution to the problem, but made me look like crap in front of our friends. And fighting it preserved my pride, but made our new refrigerator bed last much longer. She knows damn well what to do. It was strange because to everyone else, she is an absolute delight. Even if she hates the people we are with, and she could be sarcastic toward some people in our social circle, she is so polite and painfully sweet to them. She only shows her great displeasure towards me when she feels the need for it. In a way, I felt extremely privileged. It was only with me that she felt comfortable enough to take off her mask. It's a compliment. On the other hand, sometimes I was seriously worried about her mental health. But for real, she was infuriated by my attempt to use my damn Jedi tricks on her. Obviously, when I enter mediator mode, which is what her expression above refers to, I unconsciously adopt a certain posture and facial expression. She realized very early on what this was like, and it became something that, no matter what we were arguing about, was guaranteed to raise the intensity of the argument up a level or two. It was at these moments that the inevitable ridicule of "your family sucks too" appeared. There is no dispute that cannot be made worse by dragging the family into it. However, she also learned that she shouldn't even bother dragging my mother into this. This was confirmed by the weekend we spent at the motel because I kicked her out. Although, in fairness, I should note that it's not that she often didn't have something to shout about. There is no grace to live with me. I'm moody, can lose my temper over the smallest things, tend to look down on stupid people, and have been known to occasionally enjoy a strip club, even though I know what it represents in terms of exploitation of women. I, like her, am capable of provoking an unpleasant situation, although I prefer to solve it behind closed doors. She knows when she's crossed the line. Very soon she realizes this. As soon as her ardor subsides, I often receive a lot of apologies. And the next week, I even find it difficult to get up in the morning. I should tell you a little about our sex life. She is simply amazing. Well, at least that's what I thought. In the bedroom, we are simply the perfect couple. Or in the living room. Or even in the back seat of the car, one night in Victoria, Canada. We explored each other. We're honest about our fantasies. At least I was. As it turned out, she wasn't, not completely, did some risky things. Went to dinner with her when she had no underwear and a short mini dress, never knowing who she would flash in front of, that kind of thing. We played games a couple of times where I picked her up at the motel bar until one night some guy hit on her without listening to her, and I had to explain the facts of life to him by grabbing his reproductive organs through his pantsuit, after which we never did it again. I never did it again. With what I know now, who knows if she did it? Despite all this, we were happy. At least that's what I thought. For me, it was like that. My job was sometimes time-consuming, and in some situations I had to travel for business. I worked as an employee for my company, and to some extent I had to travel to where the work was. But it never lasted long, and I returned home, and this did not happen very often. Christy would sometimes go visit some tech company that wanted to donate old equipment to her museum for posterity, and a couple of times I had to go with her too, although I had to sit and watch a bunch of bearded men talk about how some hard drive was the size of a washing machine used to cost $750,000, and now you can buy earrings with a larger capacity than that. Wasn't my idea of a good time. But hey, I could, at Intel's expense, golf in Arizona in the dead of winter, play the dime slot machines, and get dirty with my wife on the hotel grounds. So why the hell should I care? So, let's return to the evening that I spoke about, which, in fact, will be discussed in this story. I entered our apartment with a beautiful view from the windows, threw my jacket on a chair and shouted, "I'm home! What's for dinner?" The lights were on, and I knew she was home. In the parking lot under the building, I parked next to her little Mazda Miata MX-5 convertible. The entrance to our apartment was directly into the kitchen, so I grabbed a beer, low-calorie diet beer, as she calls it, and wandered into the living room. And there she sits on the sofa, clasping her knees, looking at me and biting her lip. But she wasn't the one who stopped me. It was the guy sitting next to her. "Darling," she said, barely audibly. I stopped and stared at her, not believing what I was seeing. Her body language showed remorse, frustration, nervousness, and steadfastness, all in the same pose. You can't live as close to someone as we did for so many years and not understand what you see. Well, obviously you can, as I discovered. But right then and there, I was able to read the whole situation in full view. The guy, well, he was young. There was a smile on his face, barely non-confrontational. Not a grin, but definitely from the same series. Perhaps her cousin. It was classic arrogance that camouflaged some semblance of responsiveness on his part. Hell, for all I know, he might even believe it. But the body language was a classic display of possession and the need to imprint it on subsequent events. I was told without words that he was the alpha male here, in the sense of owning her. She leaned forward, and he leaned back, both arms stretched across the back of the sofa, one behind her. It was clear that she leaned forward slightly so that it would not appear as if he had his arms around her. But you don't have to be Einstein to understand that she didn't remove it. She tried her best to keep the situation from looking too bad, but the more she tried, the worse it looked. Now she looked more guilty than remorseful. Just by looking at both of them, I understood what it was, at least partially. Knew what was happening. But I didn't know where they thought it would lead, whether it would be a confession and a promise not to repeat it, or a "Dear John" caught moment, or whatever it was. But I understood what happened before that. It's impossible not to understand when you see something like this. I looked at them for another moment, and then plopped down into a chair standing next to the sofa, at right angles to it. This put me right next to this guy who was looking at me with what I thought was concern. I saw Christy frown as I sat down and could read the expressions flashing across her face. The way they were sitting was really unfortunate. If I start to get rowdy, she won't be able to stop me. But now it's too late. They were clearly acting out a script, and I had to hold back the anger building in my stomach when I realized what the script was. I opened a can of beer, sighed, and took a long sip. She bit her lip again, and I could see she was about to say something, but she didn't. I'm guessing it was something like, "Yeah, beer is really good right now." I chuckled as a thought occurred to me. It's funny how you react to sudden extreme stress. I've seen this before, and it always puzzled me. People say the most ridiculous things, or make some remarks, or raise some issue that has absolutely nothing to do with the current situation. This happens quite often in my work, and I have always been quietly surprised by what is going on in their heads at that moment. Supposedly, a complete denial of the reality of the situation, and I felt it myself. "What?" Christy asked. There was a note of irritation in her voice, which she immediately hid. I took another sip of beer, then said, "Yes, I just thought, I know you so well. I can read your body language. So I thought that in a situation like this, you couldn't hide your body language like that, not when you know it so well. And then it occurred to me that that's exactly what you were doing. Hiding it, wasn't it? I had no idea about this." She winced slightly, then sighed. "Well, yes, I think yes. But part of that is intervention, I think." "Intervention?" I inserted, pronouncing this word sarcastically. "So that's what you call our little event. Why not call it something more decent? Maybe a general fee. Coming to Jesus." It came out before I could stop myself. It wasn't worth it, though. I'm usually above that. "Mikey," she said reproachfully, using that two-tone method that people use to verbally emphasize a two-syllable word. "Oh, of course, dear wife," I said, emphasizing the word wife in the same way. "Continue. I wouldn't want to break your script." I glanced at the guy sitting next to her and noticed that one of my beer bottles was open in front of him. The white-hot rage I was feeling, actually beginning to feel, became even whiter. "Mike, you just said it yourself. You had no idea about anything. I think it's fair to say that, in fact, not only did you not notice anything, but there was nothing to notice, right? No signs, no decrease in affection or sex. Is it so?" She is right. Did not notice. I didn't even look closely. That's what unconditional trust does to you. But still, I'm an observant guy. My job depends on it, and it's not that I take it for granted. Even after 11 years, I still bought her flowers for no reason, sent them to work, took her out on weekends, bought her little trinkets, anything to show her how much I cared about her, which, from my point of view, made the whole thing even more nauseating. My mind was racing at 320 miles per hour, asking questions I had no answers to. Did I not give her enough? What else could she want? What prompted her to do this? Why? I tried my best to get my emotions under control. I will never get answers if I leave, no matter how strong the temptation. I'm smart enough to know that at some point it will happen, but first I need answers, and this is the way to get them. I won't get them all, and she'll outright lie about some things. That's inevitable. I know she still loves me and doesn't want to hurt me any more than she already has, so I knew she would lie about something she judged. This is human. But that's the whole point. I know that she loves me. I am 100% sure of this. Even with evidence that this love was shared with others, I am still sure of it. Maybe I'm deceiving myself, I don't know. In life, you just know some things, and I know that she loves me. I think I'm just kidding myself about the "to the exclusion of everyone else" part of the phrase that is supposed to follow. I just shook my beer, not yet trusting myself to speak. Christy took this as confirmation and continued in the most measured voice she could muster. "So, logically speaking, since I have never given you less than what you have always received from me, how does that affect you?" "I remain the same person I always have been, and this," she gestured to the man sitting next to her, "is just another dimension. That's all. Nothing changes. I still and always will love you and be everything to you that I have always been. And I want the same in return. Naturally, you can understand this. You haven't lost anything. Just like that." She actively hopes that I will go for it. I'll look at everything from her point of view. That's smart. She's trying to do to me what I do professionally. Make me see everything from her point of view. Metaphorically, walk in her shoes. There was silence for a second. Then she said, "It's not you, dear. In any case, you are not deficient at all. Please understand this. You rocked my world and always will. Just what, Christy?" I said, surprised that I hadn't knocked over a coffee table and hurt someone yet. "You just need more than I could give?" "Flowers, gifts, weekends. Love. I chuckled at the last word. Is that just not enough for you? Does he have a huge man's tool? Is that all? Christy's restaurant began to crack. Her voice and face began to tremble. I saw tears welling up in my eyes. The guy sitting next to her leaned forward with a worried expression on his face and looked at me with hostility. Christy, he said in a surprisingly deep voice, baby, everything is fine. Stay as we agreed. His hand, resting on the back of the sofa, moved forward to cup her body. And then I relaxed a little. I leaned forward and said, hey, dickhead, I can do this to you, right? We are almost blood brothers. And at the same time, I put my hand on the back of his hand, which was still lying on his lap. In one smooth motion, I grabbed his index finger and simply pulled it up and back. He had no choice but to follow him or risk breaking him. With his arm around Christy, there was nowhere for him to go, and when I pulled my finger back and pressed harder, bending it at an angle, he flexed his body to relieve the pressure. He could not move further, being restrained by his hand behind Christy's back. Mike, please, Christy said helplessly. I shot a very quick, venomous glance in her direction, then focused on the dickhead in front of me. She didn't move, which was reasonable, although she looked like she wanted to move, but even she wasn't that stupid. Listen, ass-licker, this is my wife. No matter what you thought you were doing, she, still my wife. I placed special emphasis on these words, sticking out my finger even more. This is the sofa you're sitting on in my apartment drinking my beer, and frankly, moron, I'm not impressed by your desire to be a knight on a white horse. You're only here because this slut, Christy moaned slightly at that word, wants you to be here, but I don't want that. So, shut up and don't say a word, or even more bad things will happen. I grabbed your ass using 4 fingers on one hand. Don't piss me off any more than you already do, or more bad shit will happen to you. Truncated? He nodded with some desperation, and when I let go of the finger, he leaned back, removing his hand from Christy, rubbing the injured finger forcefully and looking at me with narrowed eyes. I held his gaze. Remember, ass-licker, not a single fucking word. I turned my gaze to Christy, who played a little more but then recovered. That was unnecessary, Mike. James wouldn't try to hurt you. He's only here because of me. To support, to let you know he's not a threat. Is it true? How good for him. But he still better shut up. I won't hit you, but by God, now I want to hit someone. And he's right here. Mike, please understand. We didn't choose this. It just happened. What happened, Christy? Did you trip and fall on his manly tool? I read this phrase in several stories, and it just jumped out. She sighed. No, nothing like that. We just worked together and it happened. Sorry, I do not know what else to say. I love 2 men. Love you. I have always loved and will always love, but I love James too. I can't explain it. It's not the same, kind of, but I love you both a little differently. Please try to understand me. I took another sip of my beer, contemplating my answer. He put down his beer and then simply said, nonsense. She shuddered. No, that's not true. You know that I love you. You can't doubt it. I have never shown you anything but attention and love, and you know it. Even when... She paused, then continued. Other things happened. I made sure that you never got less than everything from me. This will never change. She looked at me intently, as if she wanted me to dispute this. She's already saying this, which means it will continue to be so. The classic leadership formula. Talk as if the situation has already been determined, people will believe it and begin to look for ways to adapt it to their reality. Not today, Christy, I thought. The point is that what I do, all this vulnerability, bringing people together through common themes, playing on their sense of importance and fair play, while it can indeed do wonders in bringing people together, in the right hands can lead to the exact opposite result. I don't do that, or at least I try not to. Although I can see connections between people, I can just as easily break them. It's like a massage therapist. He knows where the nerve nodes are, and if he really wants to, he can both inflict pain and soothe with his hands on your body. I can do the same. I just really don't like having that ability. When you get angry, you can actually destroy someone. And right now, I'm angry. Very much. She needs to understand my pain. She needs to know that she caused it. She needs to understand the reality of her future. And I was going to ruin that future. And all in words, right here and right now. Looking back, I'm partly ashamed of what I did, and partly I'm proud that I stuck it out and didn't give up, didn't remain a good boy. What I did was wrong. But on the other hand, what was the alternative? I wasn't going to give her what she wanted because that's not what I wanted. At all. This is the opposite of what I want. There is simply no middle ground here, at least in my understanding. If we decided to open our marriage together, then it would be one thing. But we didn't do it, and I would never do it. I am a one-woman man. Therefore, what she wants, by its very definition, is the opposite of what I want. What she wants, I can't give her, and the fact that this asshole is sitting next to her and the way she behaves makes it clear that this is all she can accept. I'm not going to give it to her, so, according to the rules of my profession, everything is over, except for the section of all the little things. I tilted my head towards her. I knew what her values were. I knew how hard it was for her, how she struggled with the need to do this. I knew that after this day, it would be difficult for her to look at herself in the mirror. What if I say no? What if I told you I wouldn't live like this, Christy? That I don't share with anyone and you shouldn't either? And what about our vows? Don't they mean anything? She had the decency to look away. I understand your anger, Mike. It would be the same for me. But I'm here to help you get through it. Look, this has been going on for quite some time and you didn't know anything. Now you know, because I respect you and believe that you should know. I don't know what will happen here, but I know what I want it to be. I think you can live with it. And I think you will. What we have is too good. You know it. You know that it's better for both of us to be together than apart. This, she again gestured to the member head, does not affect us. I don't know how to make you understand this. It's like a second job or something. She had no idea about my anger. She had all the classic symptoms of someone who has given up on the concept of understanding a reaction in a negative way, because there is simply no way to deal with it or accept that you are the cause of it. This is what most people do. When they do something wrong or unpleasant, they simply ignore the extent of the reaction, because otherwise it will actually send a signal that what they did is seriously wrong. And no one wants this, because then they will have to do something about it. I snorted and said, "You really believe this, don't you?" "How is that supposed to work, Christy? How are you going to soothe my ego? How are you going to make all this better?" She blinked at this and, to her credit, perked up. "Don't know. This is what you have to tell me. Whatever you want." "Okay, no problem. Tell that ass-licker he's done with you and to get out of here immediately, and let him forget your number." I leaned forward and looked into her eyes. "That's what I want, Christy. Do it." She looked at me for a second, then looked away. "So then, nothing?" I asked in an icy tone. There was silence for a moment. I heard the grandfather clock on the wall that her mother gave us for our 10-year wedding anniversary, ticking away the minutes. "Mike, why can't you understand? Nothing should change. We're here now because I don't want to be whoring behind your back. This is killing me. Appear more determined than you really are. I should be free. And you want me to be free, right? And I respect you enough for you to know. To understand. And accepted?" I finished for her. She nodded, a tear appearing in the corner of her eye. "How long have we been married, Christy?" I asked unexpectedly. 11 years old," she answered, uncertainty. "Right. And in all this time, have I ever let you know that I don't mind? That I'll be okay? That I will overcome this and accept it?" And again she turned away. Another point for Mike's team. She insulted my intelligence and her knowledge of me. willful ignorance of reality. "No," she answered quietly. Then she looked back. "But you can. I know that you can. Our lives are based on unlimited love for each other. If you love me, if you really love me, then you will allow me this. Is it true? Unlimited love? And this is how you manifest it? Falling in love with someone else and having sex with him? Is there unlimited love? Lord, what in your world is unlimited hatred? Kill me first? It's not fair, Mike. I didn't plan this. Nobody wanted to hurt you. Well, damn, good luck with that. You did it anyway. I'm sorry. Me too. But that doesn't do much, does it? I took another sip of beer. I didn't feel the taste. At that moment, it was cold and wet. I contemplated my next maneuver. I knew it was difficult for her to come to me with this. That's why there was ass-licking with her. Otherwise, she would never have gotten through it. But she had no idea of the depth of my pain. Hell, even I didn't know right now. Christy, how do you think I feel now? I asked quietly. She looked at the guy sitting next to her, James. He nodded, encouraging her. I think you must be in pain. You're angry. Angry at me. Because I did this to us, with you. But you don't understand. It's not what you think. It's not what you're afraid of. Everything will be fine. We can work things out. I still love you and always will. I need you to understand this. If that's all you understand. I love it. You. I will always love you. I will always be yours. And you will be mine. We just have to get through it. Adjust a little. And we will be together forever. Lobsters, remember? She was referring to the episode we were watching of Friends. We both loved the idea of the old lobster couple and even dressed up as lobsters for Halloween that year. I don't think you have any idea. I really don't think so. You tore my heart out. You know that? Everything I thought we were basing ourselves on turned out to be a lie. The pain burst out of me, fresh and smoking. No, it's all not so, Christy interrupted me. That's the point. Everything is wrong. I am still the same. You are still the same. It's still the same marriage. There's just another dimension, new axis. You must understand this. Nothing changes. You just had to find out, that's all. Why, Christy? Why did I have to find out? Why couldn't you just continue to act in secret? I was ready to digress for a moment because I really wanted to point something out to her. She looked slightly dazed. Would you really prefer it if I just kept cheating? No, that's not what I said. I asked why I had to find out. Because it was killing me, she said in a slightly confused voice, not understanding what I was getting at. I hid and tried very hard to be at home the way I always was, and it wasn't fair to you. That's right, so you were hiding. And why? Why was it killing you? Well, because it was... She hesitated, realizing what I was getting at. Wrong, I added. She looked at me silently. The reason you were hiding is because you knew it was wrong and that I would be outraged, upset, hurt, angry, and everything else if I found out. You knew it was a bad and destructive thing to do, so you hid. You hid your bad behavior because you knew it was wrong. There was silence. Then she said, we just had to find a way to tell you this to minimize the pain. And how did it happen? I asked in response, pursing my lips in sarcasm. She didn't answer. But still, you have no idea how I feel right now. Everything you say is just words. Oh, I'm sure this is hard for you. Very hard. Poor thing. None of you have any damn plans to give up, do you? Just good old Mike. I will have to accept this. For you, the issue has already been resolved. You will not lose anything. All you can do is have your cake and eat it. And this fucker? Well, I don't know what he's losing. Nothing, I suspect. He gets you without remorse or meanness. Beauty. He looked at me and was about to say something, and I stared at him, looked at his finger, and lowered my beer, as if preparing for something. Apparently, he changed his mind. Mike, James wants me all the time, just like you. I'm trying to do the best I can. Cut me some slack. I told him, just like you, that he couldn't have all of me like you. I now have 2 men to take care of, and there is no way I am going to replace you. You're such a fucking idiot, Christy. Listen to yourself. Don't replace me? Fuck you. Of course you are replacing. The very fact that we are having this conversation means that I am not being replaced, as you so charmingly put it. I no longer have you exclusively, which I noticed is not what I signed up for when we exchanged our marriage vows. And you too. The best thing you can do is leave that bastard's ass right now and, quite frankly, throw yourself at my mercy. That's all. I don't share shit with anyone. Stop asking for it. You must know. But you can't imagine my pain. I want you to imagine that I'm having an affair. That I'm having sex with a cute, red-haired paralegal. Picture this, Christy. Imagine that I just came home and told you that I've been having sex with her for months. That I love her and want to keep doing it. I looked at her and realized that my words had gone in one ear and out the other. She's too caught up in her own situation to even process my words with any degree of reality. Then she opened her mouth and confirmed it. Well, I wouldn't like it very much, but I would find a way to put up with it. Fuck it. You should put up with it. The only reason you say that is because of the situation you want me to accept. Let's be honest. Oh, sorry, I shouldn't have asked for that, should I? That was the end of it. Even she had to admit the honesty of that statement. You destroyed me, Christy. You destroyed us. Don't you understand that? I don't care about your words that nothing will change. It has already changed, and there is no escape from this. No matter what happens now, you will always betray me. Always. And nothing will change that. I will never get over this, and I will have to ask you to leave, as you obviously want this to continue. And even if you didn't, how the hell would I ever trust you again? You hid this from me, very effectively, for I don't know how long. If you said, okay, I'm done. What then? How do I know if you decide to start over, either with this funny guy or with someone else? How can I trust you now, Christy? But you're not going to stop, are you? Do you want it? You just told me what you want. This question struck a nerve. I saw that she did not look at it from that point of view. The fact of the matter is that people who make deals with the devil never have them. You made your choice, and it wasn't me, was it? Because if it were me, this crap would have disappeared a long time ago. This is what I want, but you won't give it to me. Do you have any idea what it's like, Christy? Can you imagine? No, of course you can't imagine. You just took everything I had to give, and then that idiot too. And now you want to legitimize this choice. Well, damn. It doesn't work that way. We have already made our choice. You can't do it again. I don't have the slightest idea how I will live in the future, but I can tell you the following. I won't be able to trust another woman as long as I live. You've already done this to me, Christy, so thank you for that. Only for you. I don't know if I'll ever be able to get over what you did and what you're trying to force me to accept. I think it's disgusting, but you're so blinded by the fact that you got it all in a short period of time that you honestly believe you can have it all, and I just need convincing. Fuck you, darling. Life is not like that. The reality is that you will never know how much you offended me today. Never. Until someone does the same to you. But that won't happen because you'll be too busy to get what you want. Oh, Mike, I'm sorry. I do not want to hurt you. I really don't want to. Please, please. You don't have to behave like that. Tears were streaming down her face. How should I feel, Christy? Whatever you got from me wasn't enough for you, was it? What kind of feeling is this for a man whom you should love without reservation? Tell me, how should I feel? I don't even know what I did wrong or what you didn't get, and there's no way you can be honest and tell me, can you? You haven't been honest until now, have you? There was silence. Christy opened her arms and leaned forward hesitantly, as if wanting to hug me. I raised my hand. No, thank you. The last thing I want is merciful love from you. I almost called her a bitch, but I needed to control myself. I didn't even notice the tears in my eyes until I wiped them away. It was strange to struggle with both rage and pain at the same time. The combination was strange. It's like you want to throw someone off a cliff, but you do it by holding onto them and jumping off yourself. Your mind is racing in all directions, bringing everything to its logical conclusion. She needed some understanding of the havoc she had caused here. Like most who have done something terrible, she didn't want to face it, trying instead to downplay it and find a way to put it into words so it wouldn't sound so bad. She needed to do it because deep down she knew how bad it was and how devastating it would be, but she didn't want to face the responsibility. Once you do, you'll be obligated to do something. Once you confess, you'll have to repair the damage, and she simply doesn't have the tools or ability to do that. Some things cannot be returned. The more I could make her see it, the more responsibility she would have to bear. And I knew her. She had such an idea of herself that she couldn't stand it. She will suffer forever, knowing that this happened was her fault, and she has no way to fix everything. Christy whimpered a little more, and the guy next to her stirred. As if wanting to say something, I looked at him, and he decided to abandon the idea. There was a pause. Then I asked, "So I can have sex too, right? Is that part of your master plan?" Christy raised her head and frowned. I like it when she frowns. Her nose wrinkled and lines appeared between her eyes. She said, "Well, I would like to hope that this will not happen. Ideally, you should only have enough of me. In the past, there was always enough. But I understand that I don't dare judge or say no, so I wouldn't like it very much, but I would accept it. With reservations, of course." "With reservations," I muttered. This woman is out of touch with reality. How the hell was I married to her for 11 years and didn't see this? What did I smoke and drink? Is it really love? So blind? Am I really so stupid? Well, you don't need to fall in love. You mean, how are you? Too easy. She frowned again. Another blow. C3, C4, and C5 are next, please. Maybe this time I can get her battleship. No, I mean, it's different. If you want to try another woman, I wouldn't like it very much, but like I said, I can't be too judgmental. I understand it. No, you must be sure, like me, that the relationship you are in is the main one, that you are mine and I am yours, as it has always been. I even laughed. Except for the last, 3 months? 6? While you were having sex here with that clown? She sighed. It's not like that, Mike. I never stopped loving you, just expanded my horizons, that's all. I like my horizons, thank you, I replied. She beamed, obviously seeing in my words that I had no intention of looking for another woman. Great. Well, as I already said, as far as you and I are concerned, nothing changes. I love you as much as always. Nothing changes. This statement made me very angry, and then I realized that this relationship was over. As strong as ever. That is, almost so much that it allowed her to jump into bed with another man. And because she did it once, she will do it again. What will I get, Christy? Part-time wife? Is this how it will be? Part of the time with me and part of the time with Captain Hook? I said, nodding at the guy, James, who was still stroking his finger. It won't be like this, she said, trembling violently. We thought we could alternate the time. 2 weeks with you, a few days with James. You wouldn't exist anyway most of the time. You will never miss your time. You get most of it, just like now. You were there first. I shook my head and laughed the way you laugh when it's not even remotely funny. You're crazy, you know that? How have I missed this all these years? She even smiled back at me and said, "Love is blind." That's true, I said dryly, in one of those last word tones. I thought again. And I was also surprised that I started this conversation at all. But most likely, this was one of the last conversations with her, so we needed to express everything right now. I was shocked at myself when I realized that I felt this way, but then, on reflection, I firmly affirmed this feeling. And this despicable person here, I said, nodding at James, is not against this arrangement? He looked at her, then at me, and smiling again, hesitated for a second, waiting for her confirmation, and then nodded in agreement. I turned my attention back to Christy. So it just happened, right? Nothing was planned? Did you just fall in love? With each other? No plans or intentions? At that moment, I really wanted to give her the rope, and I was not disappointed. Yes, you have to believe me. I wasn't looking for this. I was happy. I'm still happy. Just even more. Except for this moment. What hurts you hurts me too. When do you have to pay your bills, right? It's a shame you have to pay to me, not you, yes, Christy. It's not easy for me either, Mike. I know how upset you must be, how angry. But I know that you are above this. I know you can handle it. Oh, you know, right? You know I can just deal with this, don't you? She turned away and this time did not return her gaze to me. Would you like to know, Christy, what I think? I said quietly. She turned her gaze back to me. There was concern in it. Then she nodded hesitantly. Then, it's okay. I think this whole thing is crap from start to finish. I think the whole "it just happened" excuse is bullshit, and it's dripping onto my shoes right now. You can't just fall in love, Christy. You know it. Here is an effort of will. You have to do all these little things along the way. Spend time together. Look for each other. Let the other know that you're interested in him. Jokes that no one understands. Little glances and touches. Personal and intimate things. That's how they fall in love. And you don't do this unconsciously. To do this, you make a conscious choice. At a minimum, it is a conscious choice not to stop yourself from doing this. You know it. I know it. Even this mug knows it. It was a direct attack on who Christy thought she was. She truly believes that she was moral and ethical and made the right choices. I saw that for her, as for many others, the statement, "it just happened," is an excuse. This is done by those who do not want to face the reality of their own guilt in an act that, deep down, they consider wrong. Whether they will be able to stop is another matter. It happens every day that people do something they know is wrong, but do it anyway because they don't have the mental fortitude to simply say no. It is especially difficult when it comes to forbidden fruit. The mind will come up with all sorts of reasons why they did it, to make it acceptable to themselves, but ultimately most conscious people know the difference between good and bad. They just do everything to avoid looking at it directly. In my work as a mediator, such situations are never addressed. Trying to force someone to evaluate and admit their bad behavior is not the way to achieve a good outcome. One of two things always happens. Either he accepts it and comes to terms with it, trying to integrate it into his self-perception, and creating more and more ridiculous reasons to explain this behavior, or he does not accept it and will vigorously dispute it, to the point of driving himself into logical and emotional angle. And when that happens, he fights back, often in evil ways. Then anger and distractions are used, and again, no one wins. There are times when you can get through to someone, but it usually takes someone they absolutely respect, the right words at the right time, and it's all too easy to get it wrong. And if this is deeply denied, as I observe in this case, well, you can just as well ride against the wind. In Christy's case, she's smart enough to know it's wrong, and he knows that I am not mistaken in my words. It will be very difficult for her to come to terms with this reality in her mind if she pays attention to it. I did the same thing I tried to do before, pointing out her responsibility for how I felt. With limited success, I thought. But it's normal. Getting someone to understand what they've done is often a long process that they have to come to on their own. Almost no one understands this the first time it is shown to them. He must get over it over time, on his own. Maybe you didn't intend to do this, but you didn't stop it, did you? This is treason, Christy. Every act here is emotional betrayal, even before it turns into a dirty little sex fest, which I'm sure it is, and you know it. Another ray of light on this topic. I knew she would be thinking about it for days. Now, the next step. So your excuse is that I didn't lack anything? And that's all? Only a glance in response. She began to realize what I was doing and was scared. Words can be powerful weapons if you know how to use them, and she knew that I knew. It's clear. So it never occurred to you that if you have all this love left for your numb thumb, then by definition you are not giving it to me. You somehow established a certain local amount of love that I should receive, and everything above that you can give at your discretion, right? She answered, "You can love your children and still love your spouse." Did your mother love you less, just because you had 6 children? It was unexpected. She resists. The thought occurred to me that they were rehearsing with each other. They tried to prevent some of my inevitable arguments. In a way, their planning was admirable. It's a shame. Oh, yes, that's true. And while you're at it, yeah, I didn't get my share. At all. And you know it. But we're not talking about children, are we? We are talking about marriage. I spat out the last word and she shuddered. Fine. I'm so glad that you were able to give a figure for how much I should receive. Please, you should write an article about this. I'm sure there are many other couples who would like to know what this number is. Enough for him not to notice the flaw, right? They stare again, with a pale face around their eyes. She knows damn well that I'm going to destroy her now. I said, "What do you think your brother and sister will say about this? Have you thought about this at all?" "Just curious." Christy raised her head and stuck out her jaw, a sure sign that she was going down the path of stubbornness. "I think they wouldn't approve, but if I could explain to them, explain that I didn't want this to happen, that it just happened naturally, that I want to be happy, and this is my path to this, they would understand. You know, they want the best for me." It was true. This is true. Although I don't think Christy understands that they have no illusions about what she will do to get there. On this occasion, on our wedding day, her brother talked to me personally. He told me to not put up with her crap. It's hot but burns quickly. Stand your ground and she will come to her senses. He also explained that she has some weird ideas, but when you come across them, just laugh at them, and eventually she will understand. I don't think she'll get as much reception as she thinks. Yes? I think you're wishful thinking. I think once you explain that you had sex behind my back, and that's exactly what you did, let's not sugarcoat it, you became someone else's whore without any options, and then came to my house and lied about it without remorse, and there's nothing you can do or say to change it. Then I think they'll have something to say about it. Don't you think so? Do you think your brother will approve or understand, Christy? I put air quotes around will approve and will understand. She lowered her eyes, then raised them again, and said quietly, "They will understand. I know they will understand." Just like you knew I'd find a way to accept it, right? 0 out of 2 so far, baby. Not the best result. She sniffled once and rubbed her eyes, but I wasn't going to give up. "You know, even after I ask you to leave, you will continue to date this bastard." I looked at James, who was now looking at me with hatred on his face. Even he understood what I was doing. "You leave?" she intervened weakly. "You are, after all, his you love, right? You said so yourself. So when I say go away, where will you go? Don't say you didn't plan this. I know it is. You're not stupid. You knew that there was a chance that I wouldn't agree to this, judging by the way it was worded so far. It was impossible to refuse it, so you would have left. Have you already moved some of your things to him? I would check, but I don't want to get up." Her voice came from very far away. We thought... I thought you'd need time to come to terms with the new..." She trailed off, then tried a new topic, ignoring the one she didn't want to answer. "I'm not going to give up, even if you make me leave. You are mine and I am yours. I will always be there. You know it. More and more interesting. She does everything she can to beat me on my field, trying to play on my own emotional difficulties. She knows that in my professional life I always find the best solution, and I am sure that here she offers me the best solution. So, your plan was to live with a man who willingly and knowingly hunts for someone else's wife. A man who has no respect for other people's relationships. A man of such stellar quality that he sits on my couch, drinks my beer, laying claim to someone else's wife. With this man? So who do you connect your emotional life with? What are your standards these days?" Wow. That line struck a chord, and I saw her sneak a glance at James, who looked back at her, shook his head and gave him a "don't listen to that guy" smile. "Baby, she managed to say before I leaned forward. As menacing as possible, in as low a voice as possible, I said, "Last warning, James. or they'll call you Identical Jimmy. Understood? And he also associates himself with you, I continued. An inveterate traitor. Once you cheat, you will always cheat, right? Well, you deserve each other, that's for sure. And I'm sure everything will be great at first. Lots of guilt-free sex, at least on your part. I doubt that there was such a thing on his part at all. But when it gets boring, and you know it will. This always happens. What happens when he returns late from work? Or you? What then? You both know what each of you is capable of. As it will be, I wonder who will suspect whom. She looked back at James, who shook his head, smiling weakly and making a "it's all rubbish" look on his face. But the damage had already been done. Christy prided herself on her ability to read people. She was proud of her ethics. They have already suffered today, and she is smart enough to understand the truth of my statements. And what's worse is that they are being said now. Everything is open. This cannot simply be ignored. When this happens, and we all know it will happen, this will be the first thing that comes to mind. In a situation as emotionally charged as this, how could this not be the first thing to do? And thus this relationship is doomed even before it began. This suspicion was now on the surface, imposed, and it was not going to go away. In a way, their entire relationship was built on a lie that is slowly catching on to her, and now I've brought it to her attention. Christy turned and looked at me, her eyes wide. She realized what I said, and I knew it had penetrated her. It's only superficial for now, but over time it will penetrate even deeper. She got away with it with me because I trusted her. She knew he would never do that. Not the way she did, and I just emphasized that. Fine. Another physical wound. I still wanted my pound of flesh. It's time to take the control shot. I took another sip of beer, this time emptying the can. And he even burped. It was done dispassionately and came out at the right moment. You know, the only thing that really struck a nerve? There are tears in my eyes again. For a situation where they had to explain the new reality to me, she said very little. Deep down, you are quite evil. This phrase was also not long in coming. No matter who else Christy thought she was, she deeply believed that she was a good person. She had statements about this, that someone was good who just did a bad thing. Almost no one was inherently evil. Most people find themselves in bad situations, or are forced into them, and see only one way out. I had never thought about it before, but I just recently realized that Christy is a liberal with a warm heart. She is one of those who never shifts responsibility to others. Now I'm also a liberal. I believe in specialized medicine, caring for everyone on the social spectrum and everything else. But I also believe in personal responsibility. You may have reasons for what you did, and I can sympathize with those reasons. But in my opinion, this does not release you from responsibility for what you actually did. You may not have a girlfriend and women may tease you, but that doesn't mean you should take a gun to the bar and start shooting at cheerleaders. Doesn't mean anything. You do this for some reason, and these people are just as dead as they were 5 minutes ago. Just because I understand your reasons won't make these people alive. She deeply believes that she is a good person who may do something bad, but that's okay, because it will make her feel terrible later. The thing is, when someone you deeply love says something like that to you, when you desperately don't want to believe it, but deep down you know it's true, it gets past your conscious defenses. You know that this is true, even if in fact it is not. I was one of the people she trusted most in the world, and I declared her evil, and I clearly meant it. And given the light I had shed on her carefully constructed self-deception, she knew I had reason to believe it, which means she will almost certainly believe it too. It was the worst kind of self-doubt, being supported by someone you value and trust. The fact that I was interested in saying this is ignored. This is what I was hoping for. She will believe it, and there is nothing stronger than the belief that you inspire in yourself. Well, good. It's time to really make her feel terrible. The thing is, Christy, every time you look in the mirror, you will remember this day. What you said, what you did, the actions you took, the pain and personal destruction you caused. And all because you didn't want to fall in love. Well, to hell with it. I shouldn't and won't buy it. From your side, all this was an effort of will. Why? I can't even guess, and I don't think you know either. But it is not important. You did it, and this is the result. In a second, I will ask you to leave, and if you know what is good for you, you will leave. I've never hit a woman before, and God knows I love you. But if you stay here, I might not be able to control myself, and I certainly can't when it comes to this dickhead. So, take with you the knowledge that you are an evil person, that everything you did here was evil incarnate, and understand that all our friends and your family will know about it. You know that I can explain it in such a way that they will understand everything, just like you. Think about it. Think about the results of your sneaky little affair. You killed the only thing in your life you could rely on, and there is no one you can blame but yourself. You are, without a doubt, a truly evil person, one of the worst kinds, who harms others and then tries to minimize your own responsibility for those actions by minimizing the damage caused. Such a person, I hope, will die alone and in pain. If I were you, I would seek professional help. Too late for this case, but I would probably want to know why so I don't have to do it again. So, go off with your serial adulterer and live happily ever after, constantly wondering where to look for each other, and I'll sit here, drink myself to death, and wonder what the hell I didn't do. I hope sex makes up for everything you've lost. Leave. I just sat and looked at her, and she looked back. She was about to say something, stopped, then stammered, "This house is mine, too." I was speechless. He stood up as threateningly as he could and shouted, "Get the fuck out, you fucking slut!" and threw the empty beer can at the wall, where it clinked. Not quite the effect I was hoping for, but I was too angry to care. She turned pale and James rose to his feet, looking at my expression. He turned away and, hugging a visibly frightened Christy, dragged her to the door. "Wait," I said, deciding to do the latter. It occurred to me literally at that very second, a fitting tribute to the evening. I approached, and she backed away from me. I grabbed her left hand, unclenched my fist, and pulled the engagement and wedding rings off her finger before she could stop me, then stepped back, examining them. Then he took off his own and, gathering them all into a fist, said, "Wait here." I went to the toilet by the front door, straight from the kitchen, and opened the door, leaving it open. Looking back at her ashen face, I threw all the rings into the toilet, and then, without looking, flushed the water. Seems appropriate. You flushed our marriage down the toilet, so we need to flush the rings too. I knew it would hurt. She loved those rings. She spent 3 months searching for suitable rings and made them from metal taken from her father's ring. I didn't get any pleasure from it, but it was symbolic, and at that moment, I honestly just wanted to hurt her as much as possible. It doesn't make me feel very good now, but I have to be honest about how I felt at that moment. She moaned at my actions, muttering in a very thin voice, No, I didn't want this." "One more thing," I said, and in the middle of the sentence I hit James square in the face. I applied a lot of force, and his nose crunched under my fist. Blood poured out everywhere, and he fell to the floor. Christy looked at him, then at me. I rubbed my fist and looked at her with a grimace. "Now you can go. Tomorrow I'll change the locks. Expect to be served." She was finished. We were finished. She knew it and I knew it. She would no longer be able to look at herself in the mirror without seeing this scene. She won't be able to face her friends and will forever regret the events of today, what led up to this, what she did to our relationship and who she thought she was. And at that moment, I didn't have a single drop of sympathy for her. I had been abused, I had been betrayed, I had been deceived, and damn, I was angry and about to get my pound of flesh. It occurred to me that she might even do something drastic. But at that moment, I'm ashamed to say I didn't care. Again, this is hardly the right feeling, but I was so devastated that at that moment I didn't care. I may look like an asshole, but, as I already said, it's not easy to live with me. Because of moments like these. She knelt down next to him, fussing, and I literally lifted him up by his hair. I opened the apartment door and pushed him out without a word. Christy followed in shock. And once they were outside the door, I stepped back inside and slammed it in their faces. He stood there for a moment, trembling, then turned and walked back into the living room, grabbing the bottle of peach-flavored vodka that was sitting on the kitchen table. I remembered my words, but I had no intention of drinking myself to death, although now I needed a couple of healthy sips to calm down. Life is for the winner, and by God, I did not intend to be a victim, although in fact I was. I just need to find a way forward. Tomorrow will be a new day. Subscribe to our channel so that your second chaff doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think about listening to the next one.